A man named Jake used to believe he was doing everything right. He had a decent job, a steady paycheck, and he worked hard every single week. Every Friday evening when his paycheck hit his bank account, he felt a small sense of relief. For a moment, it looked like everything was under control. But by Wednesday, the money was almost gone. Rent, car payment, credit cards, groceries, gas, subscriptions he barely remembered signing up for. One by one, the money disappeared. And by the end of the month, Jake was doing what nearly 60% of Americans admit they do, living paycheck to paycheck. What confused Jake the most was something he noticed at work. There was another guy in the office named Mark. Mark didn't seem special. He didn't work longer hours. He didn't look stressed. But somehow, Mark always seemed calm about money. Jake once overheard coworkers talking about Mark buying a small rental property. Another time, someone mentioned Mark investing in stocks. Meanwhile, Jake was stressing about whether his credit card would decline at the gas station. One afternoon during lunch break, Jake finally asked him, "Man, how do you do it? We make almost the same salary." Mark smiled. "Because we don't think about money the same way." Jake laughed. "What does that even mean?" Mark leaned back in his chair. "Most people think money is something you spend. Rich people think money is something you use." At first, Jake didn't really understand what that meant, but over the next few weeks he started noticing things. Jake's paycheck came in and his first instinct was to spend. New phone upgrade, eating out 3 times a week, streaming services, random Amazon purchases. It wasn't huge spending individually, but together it drained everything. Mark's paycheck came in, and the first thing he did was move money somewhere else. Investments, savings, assets. Jake once asked him about it again. Mark explained something that stuck in Jake's mind. Poor and middle-class people focus on income. Rich people focus on ownership. Jake thought about his own life. He owned nothing that made him money. His car lost value every year. His credit cards charged him interest. His paycheck only lasted until the next paycheck. Then one night, Jake saw something online that shocked him. The average millionaire in America has 7 different income streams. Jake only had one. And that one paycheck controlled everything in his life. That realization hit him hard. But the bigger difference between rich and poor thinking wasn't income. It was how they reacted to money decisions. For example, when Jake got a tax refund one year, he spent it within 2 weeks. A weekend trip, new shoes, and a bigger TV. Mark got a tax refund too. He bought shares in a company. 3 years later, that investment had doubled. Another time, Jake financed a $35,000 car because the monthly payment wasn't that bad. Mark drove a 5-year-old car and used the money he saved to invest in a rental property that paid him every month. Slowly, Jake began noticing a pattern. The poor ask, "Can I afford the payment?" The rich ask, "Will this make me money?" It sounds simple, but that single question changes everything. Jake realized something uncomfortable about his life. He had been trained to be a consumer. Every advertisement, every social media post, every flashy lifestyle video pushed him to spend more. But nobody ever taught him how money actually works. Nobody explained assets versus liabilities. Nobody explained compound interest. Nobody explained that wealth grows quietly, not loudly. Then one evening, Jake decided to do something small. Instead of spending his usual Friday night money, he opened an investment app and bought his first stock. It wasn't a huge amount, just $100. But psychologically, something shifted. For the first time in his life, Jake owned a tiny piece of a company instead of just being a customer of companies. The next month, he did it again. Another $100. Then another. Jake also started paying attention to his habits. He realized he was spending nearly $400 a month eating out. Another $150 on random subscriptions. Another $200 on impulse shopping. almost $750 every month, disappearing. That's when he remembered something Mark once said. Small leaks sink big ships. Jake didn't suddenly become rich, but he did start thinking differently. Instead of asking, "What can I buy this month?" he began asking, "What can I build this month?" He started learning about index funds. He learned that historically the stock market averages around 10% annual return over long periods. He discovered that investing just $300 a month could grow into hundreds of thousands of dollars over time because of compound growth. For the first time, the future didn't feel scary anymore. It felt like a system. Jake also noticed something surprising about rich thinking. Rich people are patient. Poor thinking demands quick rewards. Think about it. Buying something today feels exciting. Investing money today feels boring. But 5 years later, those choices look very different. Jake kept investing. He paid off his credit card. He stopped upgrading things he didn't need. Instead of chasing status, he started chasing freedom. And about 3 years later, something interesting happened. Jake checked his investment account. It had grown more than he expected. Not because he was lucky. Not because he picked magical stocks. But because he stayed consistent. That's when Jake finally understood what Mark meant years ago. The difference between rich and poor thinking isn't just money. It's behavior. It's patience. It's ownership. Poor thinking says, "I worked hard, so I deserve to spend this." Rich thinking says, "I worked hard, so this money should work for me." One mindset keeps you running on the treadmill forever. The other slowly builds a machine that works even when you're sleeping. Today, Jake still works his job. But his paycheck is no longer his only source of progress. His investments grow quietly in the background, and the stress that once followed him every month is slowly fading away. Because once you understand how the rich think about money, you stop asking how much something costs, and you start asking something much more powerful. How much freedom could this money create in the future?